Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our FY 2022 Adult Education Request for Proposal Bidders Conference. My name is Sue Pearson. I work for the Connecticut State Department of Education, and I'm joined by my colleagues Sabrina Mancini and Marcy Reed. We're going to go through the document, the request for proposal, otherwise known as RFP. We'll be going through that document page by page. Once we get started, I will show you a link to where you can find it now. If you haven't already downloaded it or have it open on your computer to review, I'll show you where you can find it. And also, when we get done with the document, I'm going to show you the electronic grant management system where you will also be submitting your proposal in full, I should say, into that system. So to begin, this is what you need to do to find the proposal. These are the links, and I'll show you when I click on this link. This is our website, State Department of Education website, the adult education section. And you can see here, this is the RFP, and these are the budget templates you'll need to use to go with that. And here is the grant management system that I'm going to talk to you about later, a little bit later about. Of course, it's not showing up. My goodness. We'll go back to that later then. I'll show you another way. But we're going to go back to that later anyway. But the full RFP is loaded there as well. Okay. I change to you, Marcy, so you can put the document up for us. Great. Okay. So hopefully you have this up on your screen or you have something printed in front of you because we are going to go through it page by page. First of all, the proposal on the cover page, this is the purpose of this RFP. I see from the list of participants in the webinar today, many of you are very familiar with our adult education programs. There are a few new names there, but just so you know, this is the purpose to provide opportunities for expansion and enhancement of existing educational programs and services for adults who lack the level of basic skills and literacy necessary to be effective parents, citizens, and employees. Scroll down, Marcy. Note that the application due date is May 20th, 2021. On page 2, just keep scrolling. All your table of contents is there, so you can hopefully go back and forth when you need to. Keep going. To page 2. So here you'll see where it's highlighted, where it says multi-year grants will be awarded. The difference here is it isn't really different except that the language here says this. You always are applying now for this grant. If you receive the grant, you will have the opportunity next year to apply for a continuation of it. So this is the only time that you can actually compete to get the grant for this year. But when we say multi-year, means you'll have multiple opportunities after this year once you're awarded to be able to apply again to continue. And that will depend on lots of things, which I'll get into later. Eligible applicants, which are highlighted there, you can see local education agency, which most of you are from LEAs, volunteer literacy, volunteer literacy organizations, higher ed, community-based organizations, public or private nonprofits, a library, public housing authority, other nonprofit institutions that have the ability to provide adult education and literacy activities to eligible individuals, or a consortium or coalition of these agencies as described, or a partnership between an employer and an entity. Remember that you have to offer adult education services as mandated by the law, meaning adult basic education, English as a second language, and so on, high school completion. Okay, on demonstrated effectiveness, just to note here, this is very important with this RFP. In the past, this has always been included, but in the past, it was always included in the evaluation of your proposal. But now, what happens now is this section, and we're going to get into more of this as we go through the document later on, but this part here is where an eligible provider must provide information regarding outcomes for participants and what kind of performance that you can provide.
Just a
but
second, Sue.
Once our proposals come in, they will be reviewed and they will go to a reader. And you'll have an opportunity. We'll show you some more about that. You're going to.
I'm sorry, Sue?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Your audio cut out. You might want to repeat everything that you said about demonstrated effectiveness.
Oh, okay. Okay, demonstrated effectiveness. This part here, you will be providing your program profiles and some LACES tables. I'm going to get into more detail later, but this part here is where the department will be checking for demonstrated effectiveness of your program as it exists now before the proposals are given to independent readers. So we are supposed to do that first now, where before it just became, we would automatically give your proposals to the independent readers. Now we have to check this first before we can have it go any further. Next, target population. Just to note who we are serving. The term adult education means those who are older than 17 and they are below post-secondary level. They're not enrolled or required to be enrolled in secondary school and who lack sufficient mastery of basic educational skills to function effectively in society, do not have a diploma, have not achieved an equivalent level of education, or are unable to speak, read, or write the English language. So programs should target individuals with multiple barriers to educational attainment. This should be something that might be familiar to our existing programs, the multiple barriers. Individuals with disabilities, criminal offenders, single parents, and individuals with limited English proficiency. Next, considerations for funding. These proposals will be screened for this before, whoops, excuse me. Be sure, I'm going to refer you to Appendix M when we get to that, where all the considerations for funding will be listed. They're actually listed here in the document on pages 3 and 4, I believe, page 3 to 6. You keep scrolling, Marcy. The considerations for funding. These considerations, as you scroll, I'm going to talk. The considerations for funding are also listed in the evaluation criteria. And you'll have an edit check at the end of the document where you'll cite these considerations in your proposal. So be sure to refer to these when you are writing the proposal. Okay. Alignment with local plans on page 6. All proposals have to be aligned with your particular local Workforce Development Board local plan. Each board has a local plan. They're on their websites. They are also, when you click the link in this document, it will bring you to all of the plans for each of the 5 workforce development boards. And you must align them because one of your collaboration agreements, which will say Workforce Development Board at the top, you will have to have signed by the director of that board. And at the bottom, they will be receiving your proposal to sign off whether it is aligned. So this is something you have to do ahead of time to make sure that it's aligned. Actually, when you go to have it signed by that director, you might want to run it by them then, so that later on when I send it to them, or whoever's going to work through these proposals sends it to the board, that they'll already know, they'll already be aware of you. So keep that in mind.
I'm sorry, Sue, can you just reiterate to everyone that all the questions that they're putting in will be answered at the end? And
Sorry.
some of people have raised their hand to be unmuted, so I just want to make sure they don't think we're
Okay.
ignoring the question.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, sorry about that. That housekeeping at the beginning, I didn't do a very good job of that. What I want to do is answer the questions at the end when we get through the document, because chances are questions will be answered as I get through the document. So I don't want to stop and start and stop and start, because there is a lot of information in the document and it's repeated and may be clarified later. So I want you to hold on to your questions until the end. Okay, thanks, Sabrina. And thank you, everybody. Okay, the collaboration agreements, family literacy special rule. You scroll down for that. Basically what this means is if you apply for a family literacy grant, obviously you have to, we'll get into the details a little bit more, but you do have to include all the components of family literacy, and they're listed in the priority area requirements. But what it means also is that because adult ed is basically there to fund adult education and services for adults, so the other activities that are required in family literacy programs, you should be looking to have them supported by other entities, maybe a family resource center, maybe there's a YWCA in your community that offers services there, parenting education services, those kinds of things should be supported by those entities, so that the adult ed funds really focus on the adult education services. That's what that special rule means. It's in the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act under the funding law. Okay, pages 5 and 6, the priority areas. The GEPA and all those are attestation forms that you will have to do later. Okay. So once again, awarding the multi-year grants, as I said, it means that eventually, if you get this grant this year, you will be able to apply for a continuation next year. We estimate that approximately $4.5 million will be available under the initiative, and the grants will range from $30,000 to $300,000 as outlined in each of the following priority areas. So new to transition activities may choose 1, 2, or 3 of the areas, and they're listed below: transition to workforce readiness, transition to post-secondary education and training, and our transition program of integrated education and training. The 3 types of transition. So this year, if you are choosing more than one of these areas, you must address how each activity selected will complement any other selected activity, so that a pathway and continuum is created for student success. For example, create a workforce readiness program that aligns its curriculum directly with a local post-secondary institution in an identified career pathway, and in addition establishes an agreement with that institution to offer education and/or training opportunities in direct partnership. So no standalone programs if more than one area is selected. You certainly can just choose the workforce readiness or the post-secondary education training or the IET one. But if you choose more than one, you need to connect them and have them related. And the proposal will not be considered for funding if you choose 2 and they're not related. Okay. Accountability practices on page 12. So we're going to kind of scroll through here. Oops, not on page 12, sorry. Page 7 and 8. So to meet federal and state accountability requirements, eligible providers must agree to implement the following student assessment and data reporting practices. Most of you are very aware of that. The CCS is our Connecticut Competency System. It's the CASAS testing that we use, the assessment program that we use. There is, I'm not going to read all these details, but at the end of that first paragraph on number 1 shows you where you can link to the policy, the assessment policy and guidelines. Those assessment policies and guidelines are submitted annually to the Federal Department of Education for review. So we are very careful in how we write those so that we meet all the federal requirements. Number two, it's the grantee's responsibility to ensure that staff is fully trained in the implementation of the CCS assessments. We have training offered through the Adult Training and Development Network and through CSDE. Remember that successful eligible applicants will be required to use the TOPS Pro Enterprise system to provide immediate test scoring and reports, which help teachers and program directors identify students' instructional strengths and needs and pinpoint competencies and content standards to target instruction. We are now using LACES for our data management system, as you know, no more CARS. LACES is an internet-based system. You can read through that, but we also have the link to the LACES user guide. We did have a link to that. LACES training is provided by Literacy Pro. The other part of accountability practices is you must use the college and career readiness standards in alignment with OCTAE. The CCR standards are for adult education, are content standards which align closely with the CCS and with the GED and with our other diploma programs. As a requirement for funding, eligible applicants who do not meet this criterion of having all of your teachers trained must make provisions to do so. So as you see, all English and math teachers should be trained in using the Math and English Language Arts CCR standards, and all English as a second language teachers trained in using the English Language Proficiency standards in their curriculum. So just make sure your teachers are trained or are scheduled to be trained upon applying. Performance accountability. So you'll see a number of bullets here about performance accountability, and this is something that came into law with WIOA and has been an interesting part for us at SDE to manage. And LACES is really helping us clear a lot of fogginess about this with our performance measures. And so what I wanted to say about this area here is that you need eligible outcomes because we match our data with Department of Labor. And so we need to look at those students, our learners who leave us, even though they may have earned a diploma or moved on to community college for another reason. We still need to follow them the second quarter after they exit our program in the fourth quarter. So we need to know what they're going to be doing. So what I'm asking you to do is work closely with your American Job Centers, your workforce development boards, community colleges, to ensure when you are providing any kind of training that leads to an industry recognized credential. It's very important that you do that. There are a lot of things we've been doing over the years that maybe weren't necessarily industry recognized credentials, and we kind of had let them go. But now we have to be more careful than ever now that we have a good data system that can really match what we need to match, where our performance measures will look really great if we can do this. But like I said, make sure you work with them, talk with them, ask them what kind of programs they provide that would be considered industry recognized credentials at the end. Okay, submission of the application, page 9. So this year, because we're going to be submitting everything into the grant system as well, we still need one copy, hard copy with signatures sent to the Department of Education, and one electronic copy submitted to the link to the website or email address, excuse me, that I have there, sde.adulted@ct.gov. So the address for mailing or hand delivering your one document with everything in it complete will go to Glenn Peterson at that address in Hartford, and one electronic copy will be submitted to sde.adulted@ct.gov. Be sure you submit them by Thursday, 3 o'clock, May 20th. Only proposals with an original signature will be accepted as a document. Well, you skipped ahead. Can you go back a little bit, Mars? Okay. Extension shall not be given. Once they're in, that's it. You can't say, well, I tried to mail it. You have to plan for these things because, as many of you know, with your mid-year reports, the mail was very slow. And if you thought you sent it 2 days ahead, it was in time, it wasn't. So be very careful about that, making sure you pay attention to that. So all of that must be emailed and submitted one hard copy. In addition, the grant proposal must be submitted in total. That means the budgets, all the documentations. You're going to see when I go through the grant system how you can do that. Everything must be submitted into the Connecticut Electronic Grant Management System, and there's a link there for that as well. Now, if you're a new applicant, you can scroll down. If there's a new applicant who has not been entered into the grant management system, there's some information here to show you what you need to do. When you click on, excuse me, that link, Connecticut EGMS, it will bring you to the main page, and you'll be asked to, that you have to put in there that you're a new applicant. I believe you'll put that in the request, in the request help. You'll hit request help, and you will need to give them the information about your organization so that they will open up a spot for you to put your application in. So you need to do that. The original RFP in its entirety is found at the grant system. I was going to show you that before, but I couldn't get on the link. But it is there, the full RFP, just as you're looking at it now, it's all there as well. Okay. Matching funds and admin costs is page 11. Yeah, let's go down to that. Remember that matching funds, you need to have a match of 20% of other funds that you're going to match to. If you're applying for $100,000, you need to have 20,000 of that be matched with your other funds, not federal, anything but federal. And please, it gets a little confusing when I say it must be a minimum of 20, but don't provide more than 20%. Obviously, if it's 22%, it's not going to be a problem. The reason I put that in there is because in the past, programs would put in like 50% matching, and we claim all of that to the feds when we do our financial report, and we try to keep it as close to the 20% as possible. Because there's a whole reason behind all that, but just trying to remind you to keep it as close to, it cannot be less than 20, but don't make it 35 and 40, please. And make sure that your proposal provides assurance that federal funds are not commingled with state or local funds. It means you can still, obviously, we are supplementing what you're doing with your state and local funds, but we want that matching fund to be separate. Administrative costs, at least 90% of the eligible recipient's federal grant award must be expended for adult ed instructional activities. The remaining amount, not to exceed 5%, may be used for local administrative costs. And these are the costs, these are the lines in your budget that I've identified over the years, including planning, administration, carrying out performance accountability requirements, professional development, and providing adult ed and literacy activities in alignment with local workforce plans, including promoting co-enrollment in programs and activities under Title I. It really goes on and on here, doesn't it? But where the administrative cost limit is too restrictive, and one would provide insufficient funds for the aforementioned non-instructional purposes, a grant applicant may submit a detailed written request to Marcy Reed at that information there. You need to justify why you need to have more than 5% charged to the grant for administrative costs. Many of you are familiar with that as well. Okay, page 19 and 20, priority areas. So the priority areas start here on page 19. Oops, sorry. Whoops. Can you back up? I guess I'm sorry. Oh my goodness. Let's go back to that first priority area. Sorry. Page 13, right? Should be the first one. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened here. Okay, so this is where we begin with the transition areas again, and these are, you'll see that the rationale is written. There's a link to the local plans again for the workforce development boards, gives you your target population, the requirements specific to this area. You can scroll down, please. And I also highlighted, you'll see this on every one of the transition areas. If more than one project is submitted for consideration in the transition priority area, the applicant has addressed how they will be complementary to any other standalone programs. If more than one area is selected, will not be considered for funding. I believe, okay, keep going, Mars. The next one, this is for individuals who do not have a secondary diploma, but are looking to go on to college, or maybe you're going to try and help them go on to college or post-secondary training. If you scroll down, number one, written agreements. For this area, you must have a written agreement, an MOU, not a collaboration agreement, but an MOU between the adult ed provider and the post-secondary partner or partners. That must be included in the proposal. So it's really a memorandum of understanding that says what each of you are going to do with the other. So the college may be providing information sessions, or maybe some of them may be providing a readiness class for post-secondary. And you are going to provide, send learners to them. You're going to trade off information about your learners and with your learners on each side. So make sure that's included. Let's see. And again, CCR standards are used in all of your curriculum. Okay, scroll down, please. Integrated education and training, another note here, a couple of notes. Making sure that these funds are not used for technical training, job development, and job placement services. This program here, if you scroll down where it's highlighted, Marcy, number 3, you need to provide evidence of a funding commitment and an accompanying budget for the technical training component of this project that adequately supports all expenses necessary for this component. To reiterate, local, state, or federal adult ed funds cannot support technical training. A proposal submitted without this information will not be considered for funding. Okay, you can scroll down. Also, make sure when you submit that supplemental budget for the integrated education and training / IBEST program, you must share where those funds are coming from. We can't just have a budget that says, yeah, you're going to use this and this, and you're going to spend this on CNA textbooks and uniforms and training the instructor and all that. It has to be like, where are you getting that money from? Is it from fundraising? Is it from another, maybe an organization that's providing the training? You need to show that. Okay, Connecticut Adult Virtual High School. This is pretty much the same as it's been for a while. It's up to $300,000 to provide our virtual high school program. Keep going, please. Expansion of NEDP. Some of you already have this grant. You need to show how you're going to expand it further. Maybe it's another program another provider in the state that doesn't provide NEDP yet. Maybe another program, maybe different times of days. Maybe we can, NEDP is now being enabled to offer remotely. And maybe you can offer it at different times of the days, the different days of the week, different times. It's another way to consider an expansion. And keep going at Marcy, please. Family literacy services. Again, the special rule is stated earlier in the document, which I talked about already. But I also want you to know that there are components 1, 2, 3, 4. You scroll down, please. First of all, there are at least the 4 components of parenting education, adult education, early childhood education, and parent and child together, or integrated interactive literacy activities integrated between the parents and the children, or family members and their children. Those 4 components have to be utilized by all participants in the program. There's no a la carte. It means you can't have some people go to parenting and they go to ESL, but they don't have children in the family literacy program, or they have a kid in the early childhood part, but they don't do the parenting part or whatever. They have to be all part of it. all 4 components have to be included. The age-appropriate education to prepare children for success in school and life experiences. This age is birth to grade 3, not older children, nobody older than, I think, 9-ish, but up to grade 3. So we don't want 12-year-olds mixed in with really young children for those kind of activities. It's really focused on the younger children. And don't forget the integration of the CCR standards. Okay, scroll down, please. We'll go to integrated English literacy and civics education. And keep scrolling, please. Okay. So you'll see some highlights here where it's changed, and a number of you already know this because I've been talking about it for a little while. This specific priority area has been a little bit difficult for us to provide all the components of it. So what we're doing this year is asking you to collaborate with each other because that might make it easier. So the grant is going up to $100,000. You can apply for 50, you can apply for 60 or whatever, but we really would like programs to work with each other, because possibly there's integrated education training included in this. And so possibly Bristol might be able to offer his manufacturing program to some of your students, but you might have a CNA program at your program that you could offer, and you can work together with that. So remember that this integrated English language literacy civics education project has a lot going on. So those of you who haven't been doing this before, you'll see that it includes English. If you could scroll down, please. It has it all written there. It has to focus on preparing adults for employment in demand industries. Scroll back up a little bit. I think it explains more clearly in the first paragraph. So we have English language learners who are probably more intermediate, high level, including professionals with degrees and credentials in their native countries, so that their English might be a little bit more ready to go into training. There is instruction in literacy and English language acquisition, instruction on the rights and responsibilities of citizenship and civic participation, and may include workforce training. For the purpose of educational and career advancement, IEL Civics also provides adult education literacy activities concurrently and contextually with workforce readiness activities and workforce training for a specific occupation or occupational cluster. So you need to offer contextualized instruction in literacy and English language acquisition, the rights and responsibilities of citizenship, naturalization procedures, civic participation, U.S. history and government as essential components of the program. And then you also must address the following: program design and goals that focus on preparing adults for employment in in-demand industries and occupations that lead to economic self-sufficiency. Curriculum focus that will provide information and support in the workplace skills, so sort of a workforce readiness program. Coordination with the local workforce system and its activities provided in combination with IET. In this section here, you must provide proof up front when you put in your proposal of a reliable and valid training program. You, as an applicant, must provide a signed agreement with that training provider. Now, this again is where I ask you again, please work with your American Job Centers, CT Hires, Department of Labor, Workforce Development Boards, community colleges, to make sure that you are signing on to a program that can be used for a measurable skill gain and an outcome for your program, because that's what we're going to be looking for with this funding. I know it's a lot to think about. I know some of you have already been thinking about this, but this is what you need to do for this program. So because not all of your students, if you scroll down a little bit, Marcy, on the next page, not all students are required to be enrolled in IET programs, but the services must be provided concurrently and contextually such that within the overall scope of a particular program, the activities, adult ed activities, workforce readiness, and workforce training are all occur simultaneously, are each of sufficient intensity and quality based on the most rigorous research available, particularly with respect to improving reading, writing, mathematics, and English proficiency, occur simultaneously and use occupationally relevant instructional materials. Now, this funding is not to be used to expand or supplant your English language acquisition program that you already have. It doesn't mean that in the old days we had an EL civics program that we would say, well, we're just going to add some civics instruction and so on to our current ESL programs and we'll call it a day. It can't be that anymore. It has to be a cohort of students who could be ready for training, who could be ready for the world after they leave you. That so you have to think about it that way, a smaller cohort, but think about your partners in the adult ed community who could provide training and those kinds of activities so that you work together and it's not all, the burden is not all on one program. Is there anything else I need to say on that? Okay, it's a lot of words on these pages, so I'm going to move on. Page 24 and 25, proposal guidelines, proposal submission. Again, this is just repeating again what I've already said about submitting one hard copy, one electronic copy, and then submitting it into the grant system. Page 26. Prior performance. These are all the components of your narrative. Okay, prior performance. This is where I said earlier I would give you more detail about this. This is where you're going to show demonstrated effectiveness, which was on page 2 of this document. Programs that received federal or state adult education funding from the CSDE in FY 2019 and 20 must include their adult ed program profiles from those years. Now, those are the CARS data system that we used to use. Also, the provider performance summary for 2019, which we didn't have one for 2020 because we were changing over into our new system. So there is one that you should have from 2019. In addition, tables 4, 4A, 4B, and 5 from your FY 20 and 21 data tables, your data system. And you must complete Appendix C, which is down later on, I'll show you. So when we say about demonstrated effectiveness and how are you going to show that and COVID and all of those things, we're asking you for a lot of information. We're asking you for information from before COVID, during COVID, and maybe someday it'll be after COVID. But we're asking you for a lot of information to help us determine that demonstrated effectiveness. So that's why I wanted to hold up on questions because I'm sure this is one big one. But just remember that we're asking for a lot of information, not just one single document or one table to look at. All other programs who have not been participating in adult ed already must complete Appendix C1, which includes a brief narrative that you need to show support your agency's past performance. We reserve the right to verify the information. Failure to satisfactorily establish prior performance and accomplishments will result in elimination of the proposal from further consideration. So as I said earlier, SDE will be looking at these documents and demonstrated effectiveness before the independent readers will even look at these proposals. So make sure all of this is clear, you have it all together. Don't wait till May 18th or 19th to say, I don't have my PPS from 2019. Sabrina, do you have it? Don't wait that long. You can ask us those questions. You can ask us for things like that, but you cannot ask us how to write a narrative to a particular priority area. Okay, those are the kinds of questions you cannot ask us after this bidders conference is over. But if you need a document that you just can't find, I'm sure Sabrina will be happy to find it for you. Interagency collaboration is the next section. Take a drink, please. Okay. This is where in the past you've done this, and you only have to do it when you do this competition every 4 years. I don't usually ask for this I haven't asked for them for the continuation grants, but you must provide 5 letters of collaboration, one of which is from the local Workforce Development Board, which I described earlier, where the executive director must sign off on that form, and I'll show you the forms in a minute, and you'll see that. But you also need to connect with your Department of Aging and Disability Services, which used to be the Department of Rehabilitation Services. And you should be collaborating with them. Let's not forget about them. They provide lots of services for our students. And other agencies you might be working with, maybe a training program, maybe a library or another community agency that you'll be working with. They might be providing a location for you, a site for you if we ever get back into face-to-face learning, those kinds of places. So there's a minimum of 5 letters collaboration, including the 1. So it's 4 plus the 1 from the board. If you don't have them, once again, that's going to be, you'll be eliminated from further consideration. Okay, page 27, the budgets, I think, yeah. Okay, the budget form are, as I showed you on the website, they're the same Excel budget sheets you've been working with for those who've been doing the program already. Let's see. So make sure that you submit your budgets when you email them in. Submit them in Excel. I know sometimes people get carried away with PDFing their proposal and attaching their Excel budgets to it, and then they come in and it's a PDF. That is not helpful for us to review those budgets and be able to make some changes if they just need to be moved around a little bit. Do not send them in PDF form. Please use Excel. And those all also go to the SDE email address along with your whole proposal. Board approval is on page 28. This, it's down here, okay. Go back up a minute. Date of local board or agency acceptance. Scroll down. Sorry. Keep going down a little bit. See where it says P. This is your Board of Education. This is not, we already talked about the local Workforce Development Board, but these are from your board. And if you're an agency that's not an LEA, you must get it from your board of directors or whatever it is in your agency must approve your proposal before you send it to us. Now, today is March 18th. These proposals are due May 20th. I know oftentimes I will get an email saying, oh, our board doesn't meet again until June. What do I do? Sorry, you have 2 months. So don't wait till May to make the proposal and get it together. Get started next week. Have your team meetings at your sites. Get going on what priority areas you want to apply for, what makes sense. Get going on it. Make sure you get those collaboration agreements together. Talk to your workforce boards. Making sure you have all that in order so that when your board meets in April and May, hopefully, there will be a time that you can just submit that. It's usually just a stamp of approval, but it must be on the front page of your application. And it must be submitted. And if you don't have it, once again, you may result in elimination from consideration. Now, where are we now? Everything to total, okay. Okay, Appendix A, page 29. Okay, your proposal cover sheet. Be sure to complete the top of this page. You'd be surprised how many times I see the words that are there now on the application cover sheet. Make sure you put the title of your grant, your organization, who initiates it, all the information included, the project director, and who's submitting it. And you can see the details about who that means, what that means, submitted by the superintendent and whoever is authorized to commit the agency to the project. And it must be signed by your superintendent or your chief executive officer of the agency. So make sure all of that's complete. If you don't send that in complete, that's going to be another problem. Also, when you get down to the cover sheet, and you scroll down a little bit more, Marcy, please. You'll see where it says funds requested and matching funds. Make sure you fill out one cover sheet. This is all one cover sheet now. We can't take a cover sheet for one for workforce readiness, one for expansion of NEDP, one for training and post-secondary. Everything is included on one page. What are you asking for? A total at the bottom, total funds, and your total match. And then make sure the date you're submitting it and the date of the board or agency approval is on there. Okay. Scroll down, please. Appendix B is where you're going to put try to keep it to one page for your abstract of what you're doing with this project. What's the name of the area you're applying for, workforce readiness. What is the program area? A lot of times people forget to put ABE, ESL, GED, CDP, NEDP. Who are you serving? Is it for your ABE classes? Is it for your high school completion classes? Make sure you circle that, or you should write it in there, please. And then plan your number of students and how much the cost will be. Then write your statement of need. Try and be concise, because you'll have opportunity later in the application to be more expansive on that information. The project design, making sure you're relating the industry sectors identified by your local board and your objectives quickly on that page. Then on the next, I believe, on the next page, B1, this is where you will be able to expand. You've already stated the need, the design, the objectives, but then you'll have a chance to talk about curriculum and all the other items below there. But remember to keep this to 5 pages, including the abstract. So we're talking 4 more pages you can write about your project. And please address how you're aligning your proposal with this 13 considerations. Remember that those are going to be used in the evaluation criteria. So you have, in addition to the priority area abstract, the plan must include the curriculum, the project site and staff. Stop for 1 second. If you're proposing to use facilities other than your own, a letter of support must be included. I think someone submitted that question already ahead of time. What does that mean? It really goes along with the collaboration agreement, as I said earlier. If you're going to be using a site, or if you're expanding NEDP to Milford or, I don't know, Bloomfield or somewhere else, and you're a site, you need a letter of support saying that you're going to use their facility or you're going to work with them. So you need some support. That's what it means by that. All programs and instructional sites must be accessible to persons with disabilities. Don't forget that. I think you all know that. Keep going. These are all things I've been mentioning, and I'm going to show you some more things on evaluation soon. Okay, so here's program competency and past effectiveness. Provide a description of the past effectiveness. This is where, this is Appendix C for those who already are doing adult ed and who will also be able to submit those tables. And then once again, they're in the document, they are criteria. Under criteria, each applicant must complete Appendix C, this form, and those tables and profiles and program performance summary from 2019. You scroll down, you're going to read through that and describe what you've been doing and how you're reaching those goals. Just keep going. And C1 is for new providers. You see that in red. That's for a new program that has to show what they've done for the last 3 years with adult education, what kind of performance you've had and success you've had with adult learners in the last 3 years that would justify us funding your program. Scroll down, please. There's the interagency collaboration agreement. It says right there, this is not a memorandum of understanding, so do not use this for your college partner if you are applying for transition to post-secondary education and training. This is the interagency collaboration agreement, of which you need 5 total, and I'll show you the one for the board in a minute, but this is what you'll have, at least 4 of these. Describe the specific activities you're going to provide, each agency is going to provide, and what you can provide for them, and how they'll collaborate with you. And make sure it's completed at the bottom, the 2 little boxes, proposing agency and collaborating agency, who they are, and signed. The next one should be the collaboration agreement, D1. You see how it says Workforce Development Board at the top? This is the one you need to bring to your Workforce Development Board and have the executive director sign at the bottom. Again, describe what your activities will be and responsibilities of each agency. Keep going, Marcy. See at the bottom, there's a signature. At the very bottom, hold on one second. For local workforce board only, this is where we will be sending your proposals to your local workforce development board and asking them to just check off whether it's aligned or not. We're not asking them to approve it or give it a rating. We just want to know if it's aligned. If you're talking about manufacturing and manufacturing is in their local board plan, they're going to put yes. 4 years ago when we started to do this, I think I got one comment. Most 99% of them just checked off the yes. I'm not asking them for their approval. I'm just asking them for that you have aligned with the local board plan. Okay, I'll move on, please. These are the attestations, the usual ones that you have to submit. This one, the GEPA, you need to explain this, not just repeat what it says here in the statute. The statute highlights 6 types of barriers. You need to describe the steps applicable to your project that you will take to comply with those requirements. So explain what you mean by that, not just go, yeah, we don't discriminate. That's not the answer. How are you going to not discriminate? You need an answer on a little, doesn't have to be very lengthy. That's why it's just a 1-pager, can be 2 or 3 sentences, a paragraph. Okay, that's the GEPA. This is for you at the end of the, when you get everything together, to go through this and make sure you have all the pieces done, all the attestations, all the considerations for funding checklist that you checked off, and you're going to put a page number next to each item so that we can find it easily when we get this big packet. See, everything is there. MOU with partner, college. You enter the entire proposal into the system. Okay. And now here's the considerations for funding checklist. This is also for you and for the evaluators. So as I said earlier, we're going to be using the considerations for funding to evaluate your proposal. So you're going to look at each of these, 1 through 13, and put down the page that it's referenced in the first column, so that when the readers look at this, they can go, oh, I have to use this to evaluate. I can go right to page 6 or page 4 or page 10, whatever, and I can find this information, and that will help with your evaluation. Let's see, that goes right through. Okay. Now you'll see also, here's our more proposal elements and check off. This is for us to check off when we get your proposal. We'll be checking this page to make sure you have all the things you said you had on your edit check. We will do another double check to make sure everything is included. So this is all for your information. And we get to H1. This is the internal evaluation, so that we can see all of these things are included. And then H2 is the reviewer's form. And this is where they will rate you and give you a score. So once a reader gets your proposal, we would have already checked for demonstrated effectiveness, for completion of the proposal. All the documentation is in there. Everything's loaded into the budget, the EGMS. And then the reader is going to get your narratives and all your proposals and narratives, and then this page to be able to go in and review and make sure. And they also, the considerations for funding page they will be looking at. So this is how you will get points. And then at the end, when we get the points totaled, we put them together and we rate them, like, 100 down to 20, and whoever makes, there's a cut we'll have, and that's how we decide who will get the grants. This is another section about the transition sections, making sure they're related. The consideration for funding, G1, comment session, if they have comments on that, like if you were missing an area, and then any other comments, and they certainly will get more than that. These are the object code descriptions for the master code budget. I just wanted to mention one thing all the way down to line 700 that I just found out the other day. Some of you may know this already, but I just found out that in line 700 in the property It's been expanded from a minimum, where is it? 1,000 to 5,000. Thought I put that in there. Is it the next page? Does it expand further? Yeah, there it is. In accordance with the Connecticut State Comptroller's definition of equipment, included in this category are all items of equipment, machinery, tools, furniture, vehicles, apparatus, with a value of over 5,000 and useful life of more than 1 year. It was 1,000. So it's up to 5,000 now, which makes more sense, doesn't it? Okay, I think you got next, there are the appendices. Or did I already, we already went through all those, or those are, okay. So Appendix J, Statement of Assurance. This is signed by your superintendent, not the director of your adult ed program or your executive director if you're in another agency. That one there, I wanted to just point that out. And appendix, you can just scroll through these. These are the standard appendices that you need to include. Keep going. Appendix K, certifications regarding lobbying. Just keep scrolling through. You can sign off on that. Affirmative action certificate. Now, let me just talk about this for 1 second. This is good if you are already an existing program. You can just sign off on this as somebody in your central office. Usually, there's usually someone that handles affirmative action issues or whatever might sign off, or your or your superintendent. Scroll down. I want to talk about the rest of this packet that kind of falls under here. This notification to bidders and this whole package, you don't have to complete this unless you are going to take this grant and still subcontract with others. And that's when you need to kind of look at this, all of these pages here. You just keep scrolling, Marcy. But to just say your affirmative action certificate is on file because you're an existing LEA in a program that's been getting grants from us for, last couple years, then you should only need to sign off. But this is for if you're going to do more than just what you've been typically doing, providing the services yourself. You can just keep scrolling. It's a number of pages. And this is part of that. This is all part of that packet. I think you can go all the way, I think it goes all the way to the end now. I think that's the last thing in here. Keep going. I guess the next thing I need is 74. So this keeps going on and on. Here's your considerations for funding again. We keep throwing them in there. They're in lots of places. Okay, this page here, just wanted to note this page here. These are your 5 workforce development boards, the directors, their phone numbers. And if you scroll down at the bottom of the page, you'll have links to the Department of Aging and Disability Services, formerly known as Rehabilitation Services, and the link to WEO Title II, which is where this grant is based from. Just remember a couple of notes before we get into the grant system. It's not an entitlement. I know a lot of you have been getting these grants for a long time. Things have changed again. Every time we do these competitions, it changes up a little bit. It is a similar looking proposal, I know for many of you, but when you really get into the details, you'll see the changes. Be sure that you note those changes and don't assume you can cut and paste from last year. I don't mean to be rude when I say this, but people have done it, so I have to say it. Take time to write this proposal. Take time to get it organized. Please, please, please don't wait till the end of May or the middle of May and say, oh, I was meant to get to it 2 months ago and now I got to do it and I got to get all these forms and can I have an extension? Because that's not going to happen. Competition is different than the continuation. You must complete it on time. Make sure you have all your approvals and signatures. Let's see if there's anything else. Okay, now I'm going to pivot if I can.
So would you like to answer the questions that are within this document before you move on?
Yeah, I guess we should. They're going to come up again in the grant system too. So, okay, let's go.
Okay, first question. How is the demonstrated effectiveness measured if this is a newly designed program of a highly effective organization, i.e. the program is innovative and not previously done in the proposed iteration?
Right, so that's that appendix C1 where you're going to have to explain all that. And we can, I don't know if I'm going to scroll back to that, but I have it written on a page number. Oops. Let's see. I have appendix here. It should be around page, it's page 34. So this page here, this is for new providers. And I don't know if you asked this question before we talked about it, but this is where you're going to talk about the last 3 years, what kind of grants you've had, what kind of activities you've provided, how many students you've served, and then document the accomplishments, be specific. So I think at the bottom of the page, it explains, we reserve the right to verify the information, examples, numbers and or percentages relating to academic gains, pre and post test, moving to a higher level, entering employment, higher education, advanced training, those kinds of things that you can show us that you've been able to help adult learners do because they participated in your program. And remember, you have to have already been serving adult education as it exists already. This is to add to what you're already doing. This is not a new thing. It'll be something that maybe you'll want to add to your program into maybe in a contextualized manner, like family literacy or workforce readiness or something like that. You might want to contextualize what you are already doing with adult learners. I hope that's clear.
Great. Next question. Is the proposal placed into the eGMS system before it is approved?
Everything is submitted at the same time. Everything is submitted by May 20th, 3 p.m. Okay. You have to submit it into the grant system as well as email and mail. You have 3 things to do. Email to that email address, send 1 hard copy to the address for Glenn Peterson, and submit it into the grant system. All it has to be done by that date. It's not going to be approved. We're going to talk about that when I get into the grant system.
Okay. Next question. Can you clarify the 20 matching fund? Does that 20%. Exclude using funds from the state grant? Give an example.
No, I said you can use state grant, but you cannot use any other federal grants. So if you're a program that has a federal grant with Perkins or some other federal, you cannot use that as matching. You can use your state and local funds as matching. You can also use, matching, meaning like you use the school building, the high school in your town at night, and they're letting you use it for free. What would that cost you? How much would that cost? Say it's, $5,000 a semester. So that's $5,000 you would put in line 400, I think it is, for property being able to use that site, those kinds of things. Or maybe there's a training entity that's providing the training or providing the books or, something like computers, those kinds of things that are provided by another entity. But you just cannot use another federal program funds.
Okay, next question. What to do with impact this year from COVID and some of our performance measures are not where we want them to be due to absences, et cetera, tied to COVID impact on schools?
Well, as I said earlier, we know that, and we're giving you plenty of opportunities to submit previous performance before COVID. We're going to do the best we can with looking at, we know COVID happened too. We're all part of this, and we know that circumstances occurred, and we're going to take all that into consideration. It's the best I can say. Like I said, you'll have the opportunity to submit some information, even with a new provider 3 years back. It isn't just last year that we're asking you to show how you're doing. Okay.
Great. Next question, just checking that we will still have IET dollars within the IELCE CE grant to provide the training component.
Yes.
There are a couple other questions. Can we use other measures to demonstrate effectiveness, such as teacher observations of growth in digital literacy or student self-report, or only the definitions on pages 2 through 3?
I believe, Sabrina, you would agree with me that they're the definitions that we have there for demonstrated effectiveness. Because we have to document, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You have to use
So
the
I guess
definitions.
the answer to that would be only the definitions on pages 2 through 3, because those are the federal
Right.
definitions of demonstrated effectiveness.
Exactly.
Question number 2 there in this, for the IELCE grant, it says on page 22, special note, it serves a cohort of identified ESL learners, intermediate or higher.
Mm-hmm.
Can
Yes,
we
I said-
pay for certification courses like customer service, ServSafe, Heart Savers for non-cohort ESL students?
Can you serve non-cohort students those other programs? Is that what the question is?
The question says, can we pay for certification courses like customer service,
Yeah.
ServSafe for non-cohort ESL students?
Or non-cohort. That doesn't make sense to me, that question. But as far as the certification courses, as I've said a number of times, you have, because we have to, for MSGs, measurable skill gains, and for outcomes, you have to show that they are attaining an industry recognized credential. So in order for you to provide, if you provide training programs that don't lead to that, they would not be allowed. If they're not going to lead to an industry recognized credential, how are we going to show that at the end? That's the issue now. Sabrina, would you agree with me on that?
Yes. Like, how would you pay for a certification?
Well, you can pay for them out of the IELCE grant, which is why I'm increasing the amount and asking you to collaborate. Smaller programs found this very difficult to do with $38,000. It was too much. It wasn't enough, I should say. But if you collaborate with another couple of programs that everybody offers something different in training, it might make it a little easier. That's why I increased the amount. And obviously there'll be fewer.
Can I have a clarification on?
What?
I'm sorry, Sue. Can you clarify, do they mean that they want to pay for certification training for students that are not part of the federal grant program?
That's why I didn't understand that last part of the question.
Well, so the question says, if the ESL isn't in the cohort, can you pay for them? If the ESL student is not in the cohort, can you pay for them?
Okay, that makes sense. No, you cannot. It should be part of, remember, the whole project is you're offering this education and training concurrently and contextually to a cohort. I've been saying the cohort for a few years now. It's not to just include, just like family literacy, they can't just do part of it and part of this and part. It has to be a cohort. So that way you can really identify people who are ready to do this. If they're not ready to do this, then they can't do the parts of the training. And they're asking me maybe if they can have them do training and they don't need the English language acquisition, or they don't need, is that what the question is? Maybe that's what the question is. I bet I can even imagine who it is that's asking.
I'm not sure. Well, it's here. And then there's some more questions from the same agency.
Can I just ask another question about this question? Sorry.
Okay. Okay.
When you're looking at the folks that you're enrolling in this particular program, because part of the outcome needs to be employment or enrollment in post-secondary, do these folks that are selected to be part of the program need to be eligible to work in the United States?
That's a good question. That's right. I mean, that's another barrier, that they have to be able to be enrolled and be able to be counted. Yeah.
Okay, next question there. Sorry, question 3. Do we still need to remove students with CASA scores of 236 and above from our ESL program, therefore not allowed to be part of the cohort? That's the question that they've already completed level 6 ESL.
So if they've already completed level 6, you can put them in ABE at a higher, another level. You can do that. We just clarified that, didn't we, Sabrina?
They can be reassessed in ABE.
Right.
Okay, question 4. Page 23, IELCE must be designed by and clearly established with the training partner. Do they have to be on the ETPL list?
They should be. That would be helpful. And that's why I suggested working closely with your job centers and CT hires and workforce development boards. And that would make life a lot easier. Because then you know that they are valid and reliable training program.
Next question, can we use funds we allocate for support services to pay for ESL students not in the cohort?
Okay, we're talking about IELCE still, and you want to provide support.
We allocate for support services to pay for ESL students not in the cohort.
Is that the same question as
I
before?
think that is the same question, and that would be a no.
Right.
Which programs can participate in transition to post-secondary education and NEDP? ESL, GED, etc.
Well, I believe it's explained in there. It's outlined in there exactly who is allowed, and I will pull it up right now myself. Yeah, it's page 14. Individuals who do not have a secondary diploma need additional services to transition into and progress within a post-secondary education or training program. I think if we scroll down, number 6, applicants must implement a referral process for students that have 16 or more credits, students with a minimum score of 145 on each test subject area on the GED Ready test, students in the NEDP who are in the portfolio review stage of the program, or advanced level English as a second language students. Page 14, number 6. Here it is right there.
Okay, next question. For IET/civics, can money be used for the job training?
In the IELCE program, but not in the IET program.
Next question. For the Family Literacy Grant, FLE grant, if we are going to collaborate with an FRC or child care provider in the area, are we able to use the funds from the grant to fund what they may need to collaborate? Or does this grant assume the collaborator will partner and are not eligible for any of the funds from the grant?
And so, as I said earlier, so maybe your collaboration agreement, one of them will be with the Family Resource Center, who will then show what they're going to provide for your family literacy program. And therefore, remember that the focus of these funds are for adult education and for adult learners to learn to, get better in English, to be able to get a high school diploma, to, and make gains like that. So the focus of it is that's the main focus of it. Parenting education, we have let you provide some, like the parents as teachers training, that's been in the grants, those have been okay. There are certain things, I'm not going to broadly say, yeah, you can just give them money to do it, because it really would have to be what exactly you're talking about. They should be maybe providing space for the integrated literacy activities with the parents and children together. They could be providing that for free. You know, those kinds of things would be the collaboration part. But remember, the focus of this grant is for adult education. So if anything you can get as a in-kind is really a better way to go. But we can certainly look at the items and see what you're talking about, if you know what they're looking for help with, and we'll let you know.
Thank you. And next one, for the adult virtual high school grant, do we need all of the letters of support from the workforce development boards?
Oh, yes.
Next question, do the interagency letters of collaboration need original signatures, or will scanned letters with signatures be accepted?
Well, you're going to send, oh, you mean like, oh yeah, scanned is fine, because you're probably going to be doing emailing back and forth. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, under the workforce readiness, can industry certifications for students be administered?
Industry record. Say that again? Under the
Under
workforce,
the workforce readiness,
yeah.
can industry certifications for students be administered?
So workforce readiness is for, they need to be more specific, is for you to be preparing them for a goal to, you know, how to, you know, resume writing, interviewing skills, those kinds of things, utilizing CT hires, those kinds of things. That's what workforce readiness is about, getting them ready for, and their funds are not used for technical training, job development, and or job placement services. So I'm not sure what that question is.
Okay, I'll let them know to be more specific. Next question, will cost sharing for space in American Job Centers continue to be paid by SDE and not part of our budget?
Yes.
Okay. Just a couple more. Next, will scanned signatures be accepted? You already answered that. Do the prior program performance with target population and the demonstrated effectiveness in section B need to fit into the 5 pages?
Yes.
If 2 or more programs partner for the IEL Civics grant, does that mean that only one provider receives the funds, or can all the partners apply for the funding?
One provider would apply, and you would have the letters of support and collaborations with the other programs.
So one provider would apply and receive the funding.
Right.
Okay. There are 2 priority areas for workforce readiness. Can we apply for both, or split our application and apply for $20,000 for each?
So I know this has happened before, and it usually ends up that doesn't happen because of the funding limits. Because it happened 4 years ago where somebody applied for an ABE workforce readiness and a CDP workforce readiness. What you should do is, it usually ends up canceling each other out, or you have to pick one because of the funding limits in the end. We don't have, I mean, we really can't fund double of every, you know, if everybody did that, it really wouldn't be fair. So what we usually say is, if you have a workforce readiness program and it's focused on high school completers like CDP and EDP, but you have a couple of, you want to put a couple of ABE students in there or advanced ESL students in there, but the majority of the class is CDP. That's what we've said in the past. Now, this may change, and Sabrina's probably saying, why is she saying that? But that's the way we've said it. Like, if most of them are a certain level, then just call it that. But that's the only way I would say to do it. I wouldn't say split your money and hope for the best, because you might cancel yourself out.
Okay, so the answer is, would you focus on the majority of the students you plan on serving?
Yeah.
All right. Next question. I apologize. I'm trying to answer and ask. Would the salary for a staff member to do 2nd and 4th quarter be considered administrative cost? If so, what line would that be entered on?
Salary for administrator.
I think they're asking, like, would the salary for a staff member to do, like, the follow-up, the outcome. So those outcome measures, I can probably answer this. Those outcome measures are based on SSN. So you wouldn't necessarily have to do follow-up on those students for second and fourth quarter, because you wouldn't really know exactly all the questions that are required. So in Connecticut, currently, we are doing follow-up on second and fourth quarter based on Social Security numbers. So you wouldn't have to pay someone a work to do that. And I don't know, Sue, if they did want to do that, that wouldn't be additional cost
No.
that they would have to include.
No.
Okay. All right. Is the recognized industry credential for transitions required to be on the ETPL?
I think we already answered that. I said it should be. It would be helpful if it was. Then you know you're using an industry recognized credential if that training provider is on there.
If you wish to have another aspect of the grant, do we use C1? For example, workforce readiness ESL, workforce readiness CDP.
I don't understand that question.
If you wish to have another aspect of a grant, I mean, I think they're
See?
asking, like, if you ask to do 2 parts of workforce readiness.
No. So C1 is for someone who has a provider who has never applied for these funds before, who has never gotten federal, state, or local state funds from the State Department of Education. If you have never had a grant with us, then you complete C1. If you have had a grant with us, you complete all the other pages. You submit the profiles and all the other things, and you complete C. I think that's the question.
Okay, we'll see. Okay. Are there now 6 required components for family literacy? Digital literacy and CCRS standards are the new ones?
They're not new, they're embedded. You need to embed them into the 4 components that you're providing. In other words, adult education, you should be using CCR standards just like you are anyway, and digital literacy just like you are anyway. And there was also workforce readiness. We asked you to consider that too because of WIOA. So those aren't separate. There aren't separate classes or separate sections of things where, those other 4 kind of break down into those, you have to have adult ed, you have to have early childhood, you have to have parenting, and you have to have PAC time. So.
Okay. Could you clarify letters of support versus other letters, memorandum?
I think I explained that already. Letters of support are if you are going to be using space in a building in high school or maybe a private building, and they're giving you space, you want a letter of support from them saying that they're going to do that for you. That could also be in the collaboration agreement. The MOU is for transition to post-secondary programs.
Okay. I see state goal threshold for FY21 educational gains in LACES. Are those available for prior years?
That's a question for you, Sabrina.
She's talking about the targets.
Oh, the MS
prior years. Yeah.
I don't think they are in there though, right?
No, they're not in there for prior years. I don't really know why they would need. Are those available for prior years? Yeah, I don't.
Right. Your profiles are going to have whatever they have there. That's it. I mean, it's not going to change whether we had the targets in there or not. I mean, now you have them, so you can be really looking forward to meeting those goals. So.
Okay. Can the workforce readiness priority area funds be used to pay for industry certifications for students and supporting curriculum software, such as med certs in various medical fields, including pharm tech, clinical medical assistant?
No.
Okay.
If you're talking about training for those items, you remember we cannot use the comprehensive funds, which is everything but ILCE, is not to be used for training. Now, if you have programs that will support getting ready for a training, that's different. If that's what you mean, maybe repeat that the way they wrote it.
Sure. Can the workforce readiness priority area funds be used to pay for industry certifications for students?
No.
And supporting curriculum software?
So then that's training, isn't it? Then you cannot use those funds for training. That's what it sounds like. Curriculum
I guess
supporting
one is the
software to,
certification and one is the software.
yeah, but what is the software doing? Because a lot of programs are using online trainings to lead to certification. I
It's
know
a
that's out
supporting
there.
curriculum software. Yeah, I don't really know.
So like I said, if they are getting something that's going to help them lead to going before the training, that's fine. But if it's being that they're getting training to then go get the certification, then that's no.
Okay.
Sure.
How do we obtain the data from LACES that reports the gain our family literacy students made? Right now, we can only see the gains by levels. I don't know what gain they're trying to. We can only see. How can we obtain the data from LACES that reports the gain our family literacy students made? Yeah, you can sort by your family literacy students, and then you can see the performance done specifically by those students, if that's the question. Next question. I think there's only like a handful more, Sue. Are you still encouraging agencies and districts to work together regionally for this application? You have mentioned that they are looking to give larger amounts to a smaller group of applicants.
It's only in IELCE is the only place you could be able to get more money. So certainly it's better to collaborate with everybody, each other, but there'll be fewer IELCE grants because there's only so much money. Remember, that's a separate grant and a separate budget. So there's only so much money for that. That's usually run about $750,000 total. So if I got $700,000 proposals, that's all the only grants that will go out. That are, I mean, if they're eligible and they meet all the requirements and all that, but that's why you don't necessarily have to apply for 100,000.
So yes, it is better to collaborate. There are limited.
Well, for IELCE, yeah, for IELCE, that's the only one. The other ones are, I mean, there's certainly a limit on how much funding we have as well. As I said, you know, it always is. And we got our estimate for next year, and it's pretty stable as to what it's been. So.
What if ESL students have a high school diploma from their own country?
What if? Yeah. What's the question? What if? Can you serve them? Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure that there is no question. That is the question that's here. They're probably asking while you're answering a question, but I'm not I'm going kind of in order. So sure. Just when I think I'm done. If 2 or more programs partner for IEL Civics grant, does that mean, oh, I'm sorry, you haven't answered that question. I apologize. I'm trying to, goodness gracious. Can ESL students with a high school diploma from their own country participate in transition to post-secondary education or any DP programs?
Yes.
Do you know approximately when programs will learn if they are being awarded the grants?
Well, I don't expect to be here, so that will be up to whoever is working at the Department of Education in May and June and July. But in the past, if you have been a receiver of these funds in the past, you know it takes the summer to get them processed. So that's about all I can say. I have no predictions.
It typically takes the summer to review.
Yeah, to read it. There's a lot of steps involved.
Okay. Next question. Sorry. Oh my goodness, I lost it. How do we account for the NEDP clients that will not participate in transition to post-secondary education because they already have a lucrative job?
Yeah, I know that's an issue that's been ongoing for years. I don't know what to tell you there. Maybe Sabrina has an idea, but I mean, I know they're there to get a diploma, and you do get some that's all they want is their diploma, and you know, same with GED, come and they get their diploma.
Yeah, I think if the question is referring to outcomes, I think it's either employment or post-secondary. So I don't think that's an issue as long as they're employed and having wages in second and fourth quarter after exit.
Yeah, and they continue employment, like if they're already, right? Yeah.
Yes. Okay, next question. If a training partner is not on the ETPL, how do you verify it is an industry recognized credential?
I mean, we do have some information that we're working on. We can get out to you, I guess. Can we, Sabrina? That stuff you sent me yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a list, but there are some criteria that have to be met. And we will be probably posting that somewhere.
Yeah, I think we should do that along with the RFP. Maybe we should post it near it. Yeah.
Okay. Next, follow-up question to that question, CASAS work. Oh gosh, follow-up to that question. I don't know what question she was referring to. CASAS workplace readiness certification used for a workforce grant. I don't know.
I have a feeling I know what it is because I heard about this. WSCS, CASAS WSCS, the workforce skills certification system they might be asking about. I don't have a clear answer on that right now. This person might want to contact, well, they can't contact me. I don't know. I think the question is, are they want to use it for, what's the question again? They want to use this CASAS WSCS for something.
I don't know, but if you're following up to a previous question, you might have to include the previous question because I'm not going back. I can't scroll up and down. Okay, can we spend the funds for early childhood education? Can we spend the funds for early child care education? Early child care.
Well,
education.
Here's the thing. You might have to spend some of it, but you are not allowed to spend most of it. Most of it has to be spent on adult education services. So you can't, there are some things like people will put like child care aids or something like that. They might put something like that in there. That's acceptable. But, you know, you really have to be careful what you put in that budget. The main focus, again, is adult education literacy services. Why you need partners.
Okay, just to clarify, but the signatures, the first question asked about collaboration letter. Will all signatures be allowable if scanned?
Yes. You mean all? So we asked for the original packet to have like your original signatures and your superintendent signatures on those. You're going to be mailing a packet. So I'm hoping that you can get those original, you know, do the best you can by the time May comes. Hopefully you can get those. As far as the boards and things like that, collaboration agreements, it might be, I think those should be acceptable. But I think you should try to get the originals for yourself and for your supers and your boards of ed, those kind of that you're closer to.
Okay, so the packet should have.
Yeah, the original packet that's mailed in should have some original signatures in it.
Okay, if a program chooses to operate without collaboration with other adult education programs, will this affect evaluation process?
Is that specific to IELCE? If it is, I would say it's not going to affect your evaluation. Just, are you able to do all the components, you know, on your own? That's fine.
Okay, so if a program chooses,
we're encouraging collaboration. That might, you know, if you can do everything on your own as one entity, you know.
So we are encouraging collaboration, but there is no penalty.
Right.
Okay. What is the minimum number of hours required for the workforce readiness program?
Well, we have asked for to be 70, 75 hours minimum. I mean, that's what we'd like to see.
70 to 75 hours.
Yeah.
If you are applying for more than one grant, is it 5 letters of collaboration per grant or combined for the organization?
No, for the whole packet, 5 collaborate. I don't want 10 collaborations of agreement. No, 5 total. 1 with the Workforce Development Board that covers all of your proposal, whether you apply for 5 areas or 1 area, and 4 collaboration agreements, whether you apply for 1 or 5 areas.
Thank you. Can we pay for students to get certification in vocational areas such as Microsoft certification? Can we pay for students to obtain certification?
In IELCE, yes.
Only in IELCE.
Yes.
Okay. So instead of having workforce readiness at 50,000, there are now 3 possible transition grants, each at 40,000. Is this correct?
I believe IET is less. What are the amounts?
So instead of
40
having,
for workforce readiness, 40 for, are they all 40? Oh, I thought one of them was 30. Oh, they are all 40. Oh, sorry. Yes, they are all 40 each.
can ESL students with a high school diploma from their own country participate in transition to post-secondary education or any DP programs?
Yes. But don't forget, they're in transition post-secondary. They're still in your adult ed program doing something, not just, yeah, it's fine.
Based on previous answer about follow-up, it sounds like there is no expectation of follow-up with participants to make sure they are employed or in post-secondary training or have earned a credential after exit in second and fourth quarters. So it says like there's no expectation of follow-up for participants. So if a student has entered a social security number, we are matching that with Department of Labor for employment to get second and fourth quarter wage records. We also match in the National Student Clearinghouse. But if you are following up for students who have entered post-secondary or have earned an industry recognized credential, because some post-secondary institutions are not listed in the National Student Clearinghouse database, you may enter that into the database yourself. The database will see if that is an outcome measure, because outcomes must be determined at 90 days after exit. Some outcomes are within the same fiscal year and some are up to a year after exit, and so they all vary. And all of that documentation is in the database or can be found with by searching outcomes for post-secondary. I'm not sure, Sue, if you want to follow up on that.
No, it's fine. I think what you said is great.
What is the timeline following May 20th? When will we be notified? Okay, I think that question was
Already answered.
Can the CASAS workforce certification system be used as a final assessment in the workforce readiness grant?
From what I remember of the WSCS, it's been a very long time. It is a system where that's a workforce readiness system, actually. That's what it is. So what you're doing by using that is probably using that as curriculum. And so now you're asking if the test at the end is meaningful. Is that what you're saying? What did she say about the test at the end? Meaning
Can the
what?
CASAS workforce certification system be used as a final assessment in the workforce readiness grant? I don't know what she means by a final assessment.
I know, I think there's, tests. I mean, it's been a long time since I've looked at this. And I'm not sure. I know it's focused on youth, younger adults. I know it is because of getting people ready for the workforce. But I don't know the answer to that. I mean, if it's used as curriculum and you have a test at the end, it's like a test that a teacher's making up is the way I'm thinking, because I know that it's supposed to be able to be used for industry, meaning that if they complete this, then industries will recognize that as, oh, you did this program. But I don't know if it truly is. That's my problem with that, because that was the question when we were doing training with this years ago. So I don't know.
They can pay for it with grant money.
Yeah, and then they want to pay for the WSCS with grant money. So you're buying a curriculum, basically, is what you're doing. To support your teachers. I guess you could look at it as Burlington English support for your teachers, integrating it into your existing classrooms. Could that be it? I'm not sure. That might, you know what, why don't I do a little research on it and we can put it in the notes on the bidders conference notes afterwards on the website.
Great. Two last things. I think this may have been answered, but if we apply solely for EL Civics, is the max 40,000 or 30,000?
I'm sorry, the max for civics?
Yes.
It says up to $100,000.
Okay. Okay. Last thing, I just want to send a congratulations to Sue on her retirement and never having to do this again.
Oh my God, you better believe it.
The last comment, can we move on to the EGMS? And so I think that's a good transition.
I would love to. I would love to. Let's see if it works. Okay, I'm going to change presenter now. I'm leaving you, Marcy, and see if I can make presenter Sue. And I'm going to try this and hope it works. And escape. And I'm going to go to and pray that this will work. And it looks like it might. Look at this. Okay, this, are you seeing this? The grant system yet? And did I do everything
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I did.
You just
Awesome.
probably want to maximize your screen. Yep,
How's
perfect.
that?
Mhm.
Okay, so scrolling down, this is a test site, so there are a couple things. By the way, can we unmute Millie? I hope Millie's still there. She might have, this riveting conversation may have, she might not still be there. Amelia Crawford, are you still there? Marcy, can you unmute her if you can find her? While we do that, I just wanted to show you, here's the main page. Most of you are probably familiar with this. If you scroll down, you see there's an after-school
Yes,
grant
Millie is
competition,
still
but then
here,
there's
by the
our,
way.
oh,
Millie
thank you.
should be able to talk to us now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hi, Millie.
Hi.
Thank
Hi there.
you.
I've learned a lot about adult ed.
Just think what you can do now. Maybe the questions will be clearer when you get them, right? So just to show you, this is where the Title II AFA grant is here, and it's open, and it's basically everything we've just talked about. It's right here. It even talks about the meeting we're having right now, and then it also gives you the link to SDE's website if you need to look at the document. Also in here, where it says CSDE resources, the entire document that we just went through is there, but that's not on the test site, so I'm not even going to click on that. What I'm going to do is hopefully sign in first as a phantom person. And be able to show you your application and how you will do this. You'll see, scroll here, get to here, and you'll see this, and you click it on. Click on the Federal Adult Education Grant. Now, Millie reminded me today, I'm sorry about these emails. You'll see here at the beginning here, application started. You must do that first. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to show you some pages. You hit application started, so then you can actually complete these pages. So this history log is basically just, it tells you your history if you started it, and it'll show you what you've been doing, comments, allocations. So what I want to do right here is start right here where the grant start, instructions for completing the online application. And this is where it tells you how to do it here. Okay. Make sure you acquaint yourself with all the requirements and guidance necessary, complete the cover page. It really kind of says a lot of the things I've already said. And when you want to go back, you go to sections, and it'll bring me to the next thing I want to show you. Overview. This is exactly, again, what we've been talking about. The purposes are all taken exactly from the document. You know, what'd be a good idea is really reading through these items before you start applying and start filling out these things. Oh, one other thing I should need to mention is that if once you complete your hard copy in a Word document, you are able to cut and paste into here. So it's not like you have to write it twice. Okay. The proposal cover sheet. You'll see that looks just like the one we asked you to do in the hard copy in the paper document. The title of the grant, the organization, initiated by, project director submitted. Basically, it's exactly the same. All the priority areas, the funds requested, and the matching funds. Oops. Oops. And here we go with the transition items. It's going to look just like, we're going to click on here, plus my organization is applying for a grant in this area. I can't do that here, but you'll be able to click on which area, which focus of level you're going to use, or you're going to provide services for, elementary versus secondary. When we ask you about elementary and secondary, this is what we mean. In the federal definitions, elementary is ESL and ABE GED, and secondary is CDP and NEDP. Then you're going to do exactly what you were doing on the paper version: project title, director, requested funds, what areas you're going to provide. This is the abstract right here: statement of need, project design, project objectives. Then below here is the plan, where you expand into the 5 pages. These are all, and then you write it right in here. I can't do that, I don't think, here, but when you click on that, describe your project plan at the bottom of the page, include the items described above, you click on that and it's infinite how much writing you can put in there. Right, Millie?
Correct. Part of the reason you're seeing it this way is that we don't have the application started.
Right.
You can go on and start that if you want to show them what that would look like.
Okay. Application started.
Oh,
Status
well,
cannot be changed.
yeah.
Never mind. Okay, now I go back to sections again.
Uh-huh.
Where do I go? Where do I go?
Go to funding.
Return,
Go to funding application, last page visited. Down. Okay, there you go. You're there.
And then I'll go back over here. Okay. And then again over here, you'll go to IET and you'll click on this and it'll give you again. There is also here, you'll see at the bottom of this one where you have to submit your supplemental grant for the skills training. And correct me if I'm wrong, Millie, if that is not included, the proposal cannot be submitted. Is that correct?
That is correct. If you've checked that box at the top that says you're going to, do this particular priority area, you will get an error. And when you go back to the sections page, I'll show you where that shows up. But yeah, you will get an error. Yeah. So on the sections page, there's a column over here towards the right called validation with the word messages under it.
Yeah.
Once this is open and started, if you've got any page in here that has something missing, you will see a messages link there, and it will tell you what the problem is.
Okay. And the same idea with the post-secondary ed, you'll need the MOU. So you'll have to, again, at the bottom, you're describing your plan, and then over here, you'll have to make sure this is included. So obviously getting everything together in the Word document and all of that, getting all of that packaged together, and then just being able to upload everything here would be, get it all together, and then you can just sit here and do all of this, cut and paste your narrative and upload your documents all at the same time would be good. Okay. Let's see. Let's go down to family literacy. Same thing. Click on this. It's going to ask you for the area. Same thing. Same thing. Okay. And NEDP corrections. I'm not going to open each one. Let's see what happens in civics. Press up to 100,000. This is exactly the same as well, all of the information that you're going to need. Okay. All right, let's see. And program competency and past effectiveness. And this is where you'll check off whether you are a former provider, and that'll be the C1, appendix C, I mean, that we just talked about. This is the current provider. The kinds of things you're going to talk about on that C. Let me do this previous and see how that comes up. Oh, okay, it didn't come up the way I wanted it to. Okay. And if you are a new provider, you'll see the C1. You have to fill that in. Okay, now this is where you fill in your budget. It's under, you have comprehensive and IELCE. And there is information. Millie, you want to explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, hang on. Yeah, I'm going to clear that date out so we can get this started. All right. So most of you all, if you've already received the grant, you've probably been in to look at this budget. Hang on just a minute, and I'm going to get you to refresh this. If you go back to the sections page right now and start it, I think it'll be easier if you do that for me.
Okay. And start the application?
Uh-huh. Do a refresh. That should be.
How do you do refresh on this?
At the very top, there's let me see. You're using Chrome. Yeah, click on that. Yeah. And then hit return. Hit yeah.
Oh, okay. And then hit this.
Uh-huh. Now try it.
Oh.
I don't know what's going on here. It should be.
Okay.
Hold on just a second. Let me try one other thing. Now try it. Now try it. I'm sorry. Hit confirm. Now let's go to the budget, and it'll be a little bit easier to explain how to fill out the budget.
Okay.
So what you do when you come into the budget, really you can click on any of these modifies, but let's just say let's click on the first modify in front of that non-instructional salaries. And what you'll do here is create your budget, and over to the left in that medium blue bar, you'll see add budget detail right by that sign out button. Down a little bit. Down. No, over. See where it says first, previous, last, and next and last?
Oh my God.
Come over to the right. Come over to the, now down just that little hair. Okay, there's add budget detail right below that.
Oh God, yes, of course.
Yeah, so click on that. And this is how you'll add your budget detail. Now, obviously you can change your object if you've come in on the incorrect code. There's a drop-down list that you can check your object. Your purpose, probably leave it as it is in your district. That what you'll want to do is put in your cost, leave the quantity at 1, and put in your total cost.
So let's say 10.
Yeah, $10,000, and then you'll have to put in a narrative description.
Right, that describes what the 10,000's for, right?
Right. So let's just put in something in there.
5 teachers.
Okay.
At.
And then click. Yeah.
Times 10 weeks, blah, blah, blah.
Right. And so click on create. And you've created a budget detail. You'll
Okay.
see a kind of a running total of your budget, and
Mhm.
for a competitive grant like we have right here, since you don't have an allocation yet, that remaining amount will be, a negative number, but it will sort of total up what you're asking for in this budget. So if you want to create another detail, let's just do one more. Let's click another add budget detail down, yeah, right there. And let's just create another one. And this time, let's make it for something else.
That's clerical.
Okay. And then put in your cost. The two things that you have to be sure that you put in is the cost and a narrative. Those are the two main primary things.
Okay, so then you have to put,
Yeah. And see how now over at remaining, it's totaling up your the total amount of your budget so far. And then
right.
and then click it create. Now the next thing I'm going to show you is, let's say you go in here and you want to see all of them, all of your
Yeah.
you're only seeing one right here, and that's because we put them in two different budget codes. Go up to see where it says return. Don't hit return, but see where it says return at the top, and then down below there it says you want to click on show all. No, yeah, right. Now, right. See what?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that will show you all of the details that you've done. Now, let's say you realize you've made a mistake or you need to edit it. Let's go to that top one there, Sue, and click on the edit, that little orange pencil.
Mm-hmm.
And that will bring it up, and then you can make any changes. Let's say you want to add some more money in there. Yeah, there you go. And then just click on update. And so that's how you do it. Now let's click on return. So this budget page, when you look at it, it will show you a total of the details for each of those object codes that you've created.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you go to the next page, which is a non-editable page, go to next page. Again, this is kind of a roll-up of what just a real clear identification of what the object codes you've used and how much it's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's really important for you guys, if you go back to EGMS Home, right there, we have a lot of training and video links. If you're unfamiliar with the system, some of them are like 4 to 5 minute videos. Some of them are just documentation, but you can click on these links and it'll either bring up a video or download an instruction page, a 1 or 2 pager to tell you how to do something specific. If you have any questions related to the system, something's not working, you don't know how to do something in the system, there's a request help button right above the sign out. Click on that request help button. And where it says submit help request, click on that and just send a question. That will come to me or to one of my coworkers, and we will be able to answer anything. Now, if you're asking about the stuff that Sue was talking about earlier, won't be able to answer that information. This request help is purely for the system itself. You've got any questions about how to use the system or something's not working the way you want it to.
Right.
There are 2 quick questions. One, Sue, we complete the Excel spreadsheet and we enter it into this system.
Yes.
And then can you go back to the narrative part and show us a little slower how to start it?
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to go back to
So
where I
let's go.
was. Well,
Your funding applications, right? So when you log in, you will log in and you want to go to funding application and then the funding applications link.
Mm-hmm.
Click on that.
Which is where
right there.
Right.
Okay,
Whoops, let's go back here.
let's walk through it step by step. So you log in, you go to funding application. I want to show them,
Let's go.
yeah, funding
I want to go
application.
back. So I go- Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, after you're at the home page, then you're going to go, you have to sign in, right? You have
Uh-huh.
to sign in, and then you're going to go to funding applications, and then you're going to get this page, right?
Well, no, so go to funding application for me,
Okay.
and then come straight over to funding applications, that first one.
Mm-hmm. Right, and then you're going to get this.
Well, make sure you're in 2022 up there at the top. If you do
Right.
not see competitive funding applications, that means we haven't turned it on for your organization. Now, all of the organizations that currently have this grant have been added in, so you should see it there. If you're a new user or you don't have the grant or you're applying for the first time, click on that request help button and let me know, and we'll turn it on for you.
Right, so this would be the submit help request, or is there another one?
No,
Submit
that's
help, right?
right. So let's go back
And
to fund. Yeah,
And that's when the form we showed before, I was going to say it when we had it open before, but this is where you would put what you need, right? Summary, I'd access and description. I've never been a provider before. I need blah, blah, blah. And then you fill this in. This is the name at first and last organization name and email. And then you
correct.
follow up with what else they have to do, right?
Right.
Okay. All right. So now let's go back to.
And so click on
Okay,
that.
so now. Right, so now you're going to click on this grant, this application, and then this is where we started. And you
Yes.
have to hit application started in order
Right.
to complete it.
Yes.
If you don't, they could just look at all these pages without, like I was doing, right? Without starting it. They just want to scroll through it and see the pages like I was doing.
Yeah, but let's go back to one of those grant pages and see what the difference looks like now that you've started it.
Let's see.
So if you're going to apply, you'll click that box right beside where it says my organization is applying for the grant. See that you can't
Right.
type anything in there, but once you click that box, let's click on that. My organization is, all of this will become
And
in a,
then right, and then it'll be. Oh, I see it doesn't correct my letters, huh?
now one of the things that's going to help, one of the things that's going to help you, anytime you see an asterisk, right by the project title, that's a required field. You must put something in there or you will get one of those errors and you won't be able to submit.
Okay. Oh my goodness, it's not her name. Okay, and then you're gonna go 40.
And this will be the amount of the grant that when you fill out that budget, the amount that totals up for that budget should be the same as what's right here.
And so this is the other feature. When you put in their planned number of students, it's going to give you their cost when you hit down here. See that? We put in 40,000 and you said you want to serve 25. It's going to calculate the cost per student for you. I don't think you didn't just say that. Did I repeat it?
No, I didn't say that. No, I didn't. That was very
I'm
good.
getting a little punchy.
Yeah. Okay, so let's scroll on down.
Okay, and then I'm just gonna throw some letters in here. And it will check spelling.
Yes.
And it's gonna say that's a big old mess.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I can fix
Now these top
that
two
later.
boxes,
Project design, project. Yeah.
all of these three boxes, there is a limit of 3,500 characters, but let's scroll all the way down to the bottom. And
This is the one that's unlimited, right?
right. If you see this little menu bar across the top, this is what we call a rich text box, and there's no limit to the amount of data that you can put in this box. And it does do cut and paste, all kinds of things.
Great.
So
Can
the
they
other,
cut, they can't cut and paste up here then? They can't
yes,
cut and paste here in this section?
yes, they can cut and paste in any of these, what we call text fields, you can copy
Okay.
and.
Okay,
So let's go to that, the one where you're doing the evidence. Go, oh, you have, there's a clock over here to the side, so you've got 1 hour to work between saves. And the way you save your data is you go to the Save and Go To button, and you can choose any of these on here, and that resets that clock.
yeah,
Yeah, so let's go to the sections, and you'll see it's
and we
reset.
started again. Mhm.
So let's go down to this. One last thing I want to look at is on that program competency and past effectiveness. I want to show you a little thing right here. So let's do that bottom one. My organization is applying as a new provider. So check the box. All right. And yeah, so we're going to need to, I need to fix this. You will be able to put more than one information here. There should be down here an add row that's got left off and on this test site, but I'll make sure it's in the production site. There will be a
Okay.
little link below here that says add row, and that's missing off right here. I'll get that added. It's on the production site.
And so the other one then, this one here, where they have to submit the documentation. Where is that? Sorry. See up here where it says must submit these profiles and so on. Where did we? I'm trying to remember where we put that.
That would be on our related documents page, but we can put it on this page as well.
Okay. Okay, let me go back to sections and look at something else now, or are we good?
Yeah, I wanted to go back to the sections, and let's go to that one where we had to upload the MOU.
Yeah, that transition, this one.
So what you can do is once you've saved your document, you'll go down to the bottom and click Upload New.
Right.
And it'll ask you, you'll be able, it's something very common. Yes, you want to do that. Upload New.
Right.
It'll ask you where to find it. Upload your data file, and so you just grab your one that you've created, and then
And
give it a name. And
okay, let's go back. All right, so we looked at the budget. We have a matching budget that goes with that. Then we have the related documents under budget.
yes, so
whoops.
this is where you could also upload that documentation.
Okay.
Let's go back to that matching budget, and I'll show you how to fill that out. So this is one where they have the add row. So let's just put in one of your object, what it is.
Here they select.
Yeah.
Okay.
Required,
and it'll be the same. Then you
just put some letters in there.
Okay.
And then the amount. And again, this will be totaling up automatically for you down here at the bottom once you click out of that. And to create another row, you'll see the add row link over there. So you click on add row. And that will bring. And that will bring another blank row up.
Also, Millie, we have this calculated for the 20%, do we not? Correct? The 20% match?
The 20% match. I'll double check to make sure that we have that validation in.
And the 5% admin. I remember we talked about that a long time. We've had like 12, 15 conversations on this, so I know we
Yeah.
talked about it. I thought we did, but okay. Okay.
So now you can see when she's come back here, we've got a couple of messages that once you put in an object, once you've started your budget, you'll start seeing these messages pop up. And so if she clicks on that message right now, that's just an optional. Let's go back and click. I really advise you when you get over here is to click on that very top messages where it says all, the very top.
Right here.
Yeah, that'll show you everything. So we see we've got several pages that have got missing information. And if you click, and if you click on that review in front of one, if it says a red error, it's going to prevent you from submitting unless you resolve that error. So she's got a lot of blank fields there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The gray warning, there was a couple on the related documents that will not prevent you, only the red error messages.
Okay.
Are there are there any questions?
Thanks, Millie. Yes, I have some in the question area. One question was, can you show them again how to get to section 3?
Section 3. What does that mean, section 3? What does section 3 mean? I don't understand that question.
Can you clarify?
Yeah, that was Jody Husina's question. Jody, if you can clarify that. And another question is, do they have to upload all of their documents for every priority area that they apply for, or only once?
Just do it once.
Well, your documents for the collaboration agreements, if you scroll all the way down, in the assurances. We haven't refreshed this. That's why it's not there.
Yeah, collaboration agreements are supposed to be under here, right?
Right. And
one of the
we're on the test site, and that's kind of why we're not seeing a lot of those things. But your collaboration agreements, you will only have to upload the one that Sue, the 5 different pages. You don't have to do that for every single one.
Right. Is that what the question, maybe that's what the question was? Like, do you have to upload it every time you, like 5 times, 5 for transition workforce, 5 for IET, 5 for.
No, you don't.
Just one it's a comprehensive grant, and comprehensive, but also ILCE is included. So if you're applying for ILCE and something in comprehensive, just one set of collaboration agreements, just one attestation, just one statement of assurances, and so on. Are there any other questions, Marce?
Yes, the question on section 3. First, it was the abstract, and then the project plan. That's sections 1 and 2, and then you clicked someplace else.
Okay, so yeah, just click on any of those pages. I think I understand what she's saying.
Oh, abstract.
Yeah, so there's 2. She just scrolled all the way down.
Oh. Where's 3?
This should be.
I think you went past it.
Oh, there's 2, project plan, and 1, the abstract. Abstract, project details, then statement of need, project design, project objectives. Then the project plan is Roman numeral 2, and that's this whole thing. I don't know what 3 is. Let's go to another one. Maybe there's something else that she's talking about.
No, yeah, I'm not sure what that is.
Is there something else, Marcy, until she clarifies what she's talking?
Sorry, I apologize. My audio connection was somehow disconnected according to the program.
Oh,
My fault.
oh,
Well, actually, that's the program's fault. But the question was, how do you get to the program competency section?
Okay, you would go to the sections page, which is what we have on here, and that links to any of these pages. So this is kind of home base. On this sections page,
Right.
you can link to anything else. So that program competency is right here at the bottom of these this list of the different programs.
Now let's see what she's talking. Oh, I see. Yeah, that's right. That's underneath all of them. Right. Do you see that, everybody?
Yeah.
Section 3, program competency path. Right. That's, oops. It's at the end of the priority areas, all the priority areas, all that, and then at the bottom is this. Right. Okay. Okay. So then we have the budgets. Are we good with the budgets?
Still more questions. I was trying to unmute Jody and I'm not able to do it for
Okay.
whatever reason. The other question was, should as they're entering their material, should they plan to fill out the paper version first, the Word version first, and then copy and paste all of that narrative information that's included in that into the system? And I think that's a yes, right? Because you don't
I just think so
want them
too.
to abbreviate what's in
Right.
the grant shell. You want everything in all places.
Exactly.
Okay.
Was my suggestion about getting it all done. All the documents have to be uploaded, everything, maybe everything but the budget or something. Get all the documentation, all your narratives written, and then just sit down and upload everything. That would make sense. That's how I would do it. I don't know.
Okay, that's the end of questions.
Yeah, you can do
That's
it
the
either way, really. I mean, I think what Sue is saying is the better way to do it to make sure you've got it there. But if you did choose to do your eGrants one first, you can copy any text that you put in these fields and put it in your paper application, your hard copy application. So that,
so either reverse copy and paste.
yes, you can copy and paste either way from eGrants to the copy, or from the Word document to eGrants. It'll go either way.
Perfect. That was it, Marcy?
Yes, those are all the questions I have to this point.
Okay, so these are all the things that you've already seen. There's nothing new here. This is all the documents that you have to submit. They're all exactly written the way we have them in the document. I'm not going to open every one of them unless somebody wants to see something. And then,
So when you're through, when you filled out everything and you click on messages, you may have some warning messages, but if you have no error messages, you've resolved all those error messages, the next step is to go back to your sections page. And if you scroll over that application completed link, no, on the sections page, come over the page and see where it says application completed.
yes.
If you scroll over that, that will tell you who has the user permissions to click on application completed. Now, if she tried to do it right now, it won't let her submit. It'll tell her it has errors.
Oh, it's not, yeah, click here to view the errors. Okay. Okay, and with something down here, this new applicant summary, what is that? Millie, do we need to look at that?
Yeah, so what that is because this is a competitive, that will be where you will go in, Sue, and since it hasn't been submitted, there's nothing there. But once it's been submitted and it comes to Sue, this is the page where she will go in and say it's either approved or not approved, and then she'll change the status.
Okay, yeah. And then this down here, the review.
We have that
Oh,
together.
we didn't-
Yeah, we haven't put that together, but that's really, again, that's you, Sue, that's for you to kind of go through and check off to see everything's right. We probably need to take that out since it's a competitive grant.
Okay. Are there any other questions, Marcy? Let's see if there was anything else.
So I guess,
Can,
go ahead.
they want to know if they can put everything into the system before Board of Ed approval. I would say as long as they don't submit it, right? Because if the Board of Ed approval isn't uploaded,
Right.
Right, so yeah, you can start on this application and just, just do pages or, a partial pages or whatever, and then come back to it when you do get that board approval and upload it. So that you can start on it before you get the board approval.
So why would you, I mean, I could see you doing it because you want to get it done, but you would not, this would not be viewed by anyone without permission. So to put it here, it wouldn't, I'm sorry, I'm just thinking out loud, sorry.
The only people that can look at this, at your application, is somebody within your organization.
Right.
No one outside of your organization, other than the state, can view an organization's application.
Right. So what do you say? Do you think we're done? Any other questions there, Marcy?
no other questions. I guess I would just implore everybody to, come back once we have obviously recorded this whole session, all of the questions and the answers, everything that we've been doing within the session has been recorded. And so I would implore you, if you have questions, to come back to the recording, come back to the grant documents. You are aware you can't ask us questions about the grant unless it's some type of a functioning question, right? About getting things into
Right.
the system. But, with Sue gone, everything is going to have to come in on time. As Sue said, the due date and time is the due date and time. We're not going to chase you. If you're missing things, we're going to discard the application. We really have to be, I think, tight on this just because of the logistics dealing with all of these applications. So, we
So
just
it
implore
behooves
you to.
behooves you to start doing it. Don't wait. Do not wait. And another thing Millie and I talked about this morning before we all were on with you, read the instructions. Just like you tell your students, read the instructions. They're written several times in the document and on here. So many times it's written. So if you read the directions and, before you submit it, use the edit checklist, use all the checklists we've given you to make sure you have it all done. Then everything should be good. But don't wait. Don't wait until May to start saying, oh, I got to get those grants done. Because I know you have your state grants, a lot of you to do for April, but please don't wait too long do this while it's fresh in your mind while we've been talking about it. Because I know myself, if I wait 2 months and then I have to figure this out, I wouldn't remember either. So anyway, good luck with everything, everybody. We will have everything posted. Obviously the proposals all posted in the budget templates. And this is ready to go, right, Millie, except for a couple things we may add to it?
Right.
Yeah, so this is all ready. So it's basically the recording today and some notes to go with it we'll be posting in the next few days for you, because we have to review the transcript, right, Mars?
Correct.
So it takes a little time before we can get everything. It'll take a few days, okay? So good luck, everybody. Thank you all for coming. I didn't think it was going to be this long, but we did have a lot of information. And good luck with it all. Thank you so much, Millie, for helping. That was really helpful to me, for sure.
Okay.
I hope it helped
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.
Have a good day. Take care.
Stop it. Don't make noises, Heidi. Mommy's